They say a man does what he must for his family. I used to believe that without question. That belief got me through 1,000 late nights under the harsh fluorescent lights of the warehouse floor, and it kept me sane through the aches that settled in my bones like old regrets. I used to come home proud, thinking each hour I traded for a paycheck brought us closer to something better. My name is Daniel. I'm 37 years old, married for 9 years to the only woman I ever truly loved, Emily, and father to a bright, beautiful girl named Lily. For most of our marriage, we were a quiet kind of happy. Not perfect. Just safe. Or so I thought. About 7 months ago, Emily started going to the gym. She said she wanted to feel good again, get strong, take her health seriously now that we were getting older. I supported it. How could I not? I was working 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week, and if she found something that made her feel whole again, I encouraged it. She started going every evening. At first, it was just a few days a week. Then it was every day. Then Sundays too. Always the same routine: leggings, her white water bottle, and a tight smile before disappearing for a couple of hours. She came back flushed, glowing, and smelling faintly of soap and cologne, not her own. I chalked it up to the gym's air-freshened locker rooms. You do that when you love someone, you rationalize what doesn't make sense. But the first crack in the glass came on a Thursday. I'd worked a rare half-shift due to a machine breakdown. Emily didn't know I was coming home early. I thought I'd surprise her, maybe catch a quick dinner before Lily got back from her after-school playgroup. But when I pulled up to the house, I saw her car backing out of the driveway. She didn't notice me. She was on the phone, laughing. That laugh. Light, almost flirtatious. The kind of laugh I hadn't heard directed at me in a long time. I followed. Not out of mistrust, at least, not consciously. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe some part of me already knew. She didn't go to the gym. She drove 20 minutes across town to a strip of mixed-use buildings. One of them had a personal training studio on the second floor. I parked far enough away not to be seen and watched as she met a man outside the building. Tall, athletic, covered in tattoos. He wasn't her trainer, he was too familiar. They hugged, then stood close, talking. She touched his arm. He tucked a strand of her hair behind her ear. I drove off. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly clipped a stop sign on the way home. I told myself I misunderstood. That it was nothing. A friend. Maybe her trainer was just a little too touchy-feely. But my gut knew. My gut screamed. I didn't confront her that night. Or the night after. I started writing down every moment that didn't add up, every late return, every silenced phone call. I wasn't a jealous man. But I was a man who'd spent his whole life showing love through sacrifice, and now the weight of that sacrifice was beginning to feel like a noose. I never thought I'd be the kind of man who installed a tracker on his wife's car. There's a kind of shame that seeps into you when you cross that line, the line between trust and suspicion. But that shame was quickly eclipsed by the ache of doubt that gnawed at my chest every time she smiled at me like nothing was wrong. The GPS was hidden beneath the passenger side wheel well. A small magnetic device I bought online and activated with a private account. It pinged her location to my phone every 5 minutes. I told myself this wasn't about proving she was guilty. I told myself it was about peace of mind. But the truth? I already knew. The first week of tracking yielded nothing definitive. She did go to the gym most days, or at least she parked outside it. She'd linger, sometimes for hours. One night, the ping stopped at the trainer's building again, same place I'd seen her before. I stared at my phone in the dark, in the living room while Lily slept upstairs. Emily had texted me a photo just an hour earlier of herself in the gym mirror, sweating, smiling. My fingers shook so much I nearly dropped the phone. Then came Friday. She told me she had an evening session. I got off work early again. By now I was manufacturing excuses for my shifts, trading favors with coworkers just to get hours that let me watch her without being obvious. The tracker led me not to the gym, not even to the trainer's studio, but to a small, discreet motel off Route 6. The kind of place people didn't go to sleep. I parked across the street, engine off. The sun was starting to dip behind the trees. I saw her car. I waited. 10 minutes later, I saw them. The trainer, he was wearing a gym hoodie and joggers, and Emily, dressed in the same outfit she wore when she said she was going to the gym. But there was no duffel bag, no water bottle. Just her. Laughing. They kissed. Not a quick peck. Not a maybe it's nothing moment I could excuse away. It was slow. Intimate. The kind of kiss you give when you're used to giving it. When it's yours. I didn't move. My whole body had gone rigid, cold. My heart didn't even feel like it was beating. I watched them disappear into the room, and I just sat there like a ghost. My palms left sweaty outlines on the steering wheel. I didn't go home right away. I drove. Nowhere in particular. Just drove until I ran out of gas. I refilled without speaking a word to the clerk. I got home past midnight. Emily was already there, freshly showered. She smiled at me and asked if I wanted leftovers from dinner. I nodded and lied through my teeth about why I was late. She kissed my cheek. That same mouth. That same damn mouth. That night, I didn't sleep. The next day, I opened a private folder on my phone. Inside it, I started collecting evidence. Photos. GPS logs. Dates. Times. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it yet, but I needed it. I needed to see what was happening, because if I didn't, I'd start gaslighting myself into thinking this was all in my head. 2 days later, I decided to follow them. Not just with a tracker. With my own eyes. The night I followed them felt like walking barefoot into fire. Every step forward burned away what little trust one had left, but I couldn't stop. I needed to see. I needed the truth to scream louder than the lies. Emily said she had a session at 7 p.m. I left work early again, feigning a stomach bug. I drove Lily to my sister's, telling her that Emily and I were having a date night. I could barely stomach the words. The irony made me want to punch the steering wheel. I parked 2 blocks away from the gym and waited. When Emily's car pulled up, I was ready. I had a hoodie on, a cap pulled low, and binoculars hidden beneath a blanket on the passenger seat. I watched her enter the building. I waited. 30 minutes passed. Then 45. And then he appeared. The trainer, Jake. I learned his name through a quick search of the studio's website after matching his face with one of their staff. He looked like every cliché rolled into one: tall, tan, charming smile with a cut jawline that probably made clients swoon. He didn't go in the front. He exited from a side door, glanced down the alley like he was checking for traffic, and slipped into the back seat of Emily's car. My fingers clenched the binoculars so tightly they left imprints on my palms. They sat there, talking, maybe kissing. I couldn't see clearly, but then the car pulled away. I followed. They didn't go to the motel this time. They went to a house. A small one, tucked behind a strip of shops, like someone's quiet secret. The lights were already on. Emily parked in the driveway. Jake got out, walked around to her side, opened the door for her. They held hands like teenagers. She leaned into him like she belonged there. That house wasn't just some hideaway. It was his house. I killed the engine a block away and walked on foot, close enough to see through the kitchen window. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I didn't need sound to understand what I saw. They laughed over wine. He cooked. She playfully tossed a towel at him. She kissed his shoulder. She was home. That's what hit me hardest. Not the infidelity. Not the betrayal. But the way she moved in that kitchen like it had always been hers. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood there, in the dark, while my life rearranged itself into something unrecognizable. My marriage wasn't wounded, it was gone. Replaced by this simulation of love played out behind someone else's walls. I took photos. I don't know why. I think part of me still needed proof, even if I had 1,000 reasons already to walk away. Then something happened that I didn't expect. A light came on in the hallway, and a child ran into view. A little girl. Maybe 5 years old. Emily picked her up like it was second nature, kissed her cheek, and carried her back down the hallway. My knees buckled. The world tilted. Jake had a daughter. And Emily, my wife, was already playing mom. I drove home in silence that night, the photos still open on my phone like open wounds I couldn't look away from. My hands trembled on the wheel. I felt hollow, like my insides had been scooped out and replaced with ash. Emily was asleep when I walked in. Or pretending to be. She stirred when I changed clothes, mumbling, "Hey, you okay? You're late again." I stared at her silhouette in the dark, watching the steady rise and fall of her breath. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My voice would have betrayed everything I'd just seen. I didn't sleep again. For the next few days, I played the part of the husband on autopilot. I kissed her goodbye. I made breakfast for Lily. I worked my shifts, came home, helped with homework, and went through our family routines like a man moving through someone else's memories. But something inside me had shifted. I wasn't just betrayed. I was replaced. She hadn't just cheated with Jake. She'd built another life, a counterfeit family. There was something practiced about the way she held his daughter, like it wasn't a one-time thing. She laughed with him like they'd built inside jokes. She smiled in a way I hadn't seen in years, and now I realized why. It wasn't meant for me anymore. One night, I opened my laptop and went through our shared financial records. I don't know what I was looking for. Maybe signs. Receipts. I don't know. But I found something that stopped me cold. 2 withdrawals from our joint savings. $400 each. Labeled, fitness consultation, and membership extension. Except I knew her gym didn't charge that much, and she already had a membership that I paid for. She was giving him money. My money. The man sleeping with my wife was also living off my back-breaking labor. Rage curled in my chest like smoke. I needed to confront her. But not yet. I needed to look her in the eyes with the weight of every lie she told, every kiss she gave someone else, every dollar she stole under the pretense of health and self-care. I needed to hear her try to explain it. So I set a plan in motion. I started withdrawing cash, moving small amounts from our savings to a separate account under my name. I stopped paying extra on the bills. I paused the auto payment for her gym. I consulted a divorce attorney in secret and started gathering documents. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I called Jake. I used a burner number. Said I was interested in personal training. Played dumb. We chatted briefly, and he offered to meet for a consultation. Said he had time Thursday morning at a cafe near his place. Perfect. I showed up early. Sat at the back of the cafe with a clear line of sight to the front. I wore a plain black jacket and kept my eyes on the door. When he arrived, I watched him scan the room, confused. I stood up. His eyes locked on mine. And in that moment, before either of us spoke, he knew. Jake froze when he saw me standing across from him. I wasn't wearing a disguise, just pain worn plainly on my face, lined with exhaustion, fury, and the kind of heartbreak that turns a man into something unrecognizable. He blinked, uncertain. "Can I help you?" I nodded slowly, motioning to the booth behind me. "Yeah. You can sit." He hesitated, eyes narrowing. Then he sat. I could see him scanning for exits, sizing me up. He had no idea if I'd come with a gun, a punch, or a question. I started with none of those. "I'm Emily's husband." He stiffened. For a second, he tried to cover it with a neutral expression, but his fingers twitched, betraying the panic under his skin. His mouth opened, but I cut him off. "Don't bother denying it. I've seen the house. The motel. The kid." His mouth shut. "I just have one question," I said, my voice low and steady, though it felt like my heart was trying to claw its way out of my chest. "Did you know she was married?" Silence. That silence said more than any words could. He ran a hand over his face, suddenly deflated. "At first, no. I didn't." I scoffed. "And when you did?" He looked me dead in the eyes. By then, it was already happening. "I thought," he stopped himself. "She told me you were separated. Living together for your daughter." I leaned in. "We were not separated. We shared a bed. A life. A child. He had the decency to look ashamed. For a long moment, I just stared at him, studying the men who had somehow become the center of the storm that was tearing my world apart. He wasn't evil. Just ordinary. That made it worse. You can't rage at someone ordinary, not without feeling like you're the one who's lost it. Do you love her? I asked. He didn't answer right away. But then, to my surprise, he nodded. I think I do. It took everything in me not to react. My jaw clenched so tight it ached. You ever plan on telling your daughter that the woman who tucks her in at night is married to another man? He looked down. You want her to grow up in this mess? She already has, he muttered. Her mom, my ex, left when she was 2. Emily's been good to her. I laughed bitterly. She's good at playing roles. Jake looked up then. Look, I didn't come looking to ruin anything. This wasn't some plan. I know, I said quietly. She came to you. I stood. My hands were calm now. Too calm. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell her that I know. And then you're going to stay away from my daughter. You want to play house with Emily? Fine. But Lily doesn't get dragged into this. He nodded slowly, like a man caught in a storm he couldn't control. I left the cafe without another word. That night, Emily was waiting for me in the kitchen, wine glass in hand. She had that guarded look she wore when she sensed something shifting. You're home late, she said softly. I just looked at her. For a long, long time. Then I said, we need to talk. She blinked, caught off guard by the edge in my voice. Okay, she said, placing her wine glass on the counter with a faint clink. What's going on? I sat at the dining table, our table, the one we picked out together 8 years ago when money was tight and we were still dreaming about the future. She sat across from me. Her legs crossed, her face unreadable. I know about Jake. The words cut the air like a scalpel. She didn't flinch. She looked at me, really looked, and then exhaled, slow and tired. Not panicked. Not guilty. Just defeated. I figured you would, eventually, she said. I stared at her, waiting for something, anything. An apology. A denial. A tear. A confession. Instead, she said, it wasn't supposed to be like this. How was it supposed to be? I asked. You build a second life, with him, his daughter, while I break my back every night to give us a future. She leaned forward, elbows on the table, rubbing her temples. It didn't start that way. I went to the gym because I felt lost, Dan. Like I was disappearing. Like you didn't see me anymore. And you thought screwing your trainer would fix that. Her eyes snapped up. Don't reduce it to that. I'm not reducing anything, I said, my voice rising despite my efforts. You chose this. Every lie. Every night. You stood in our kitchen, kissed our daughter goodnight, and then crawled into his bed. She looked away. That was the first real crack. I didn't mean for it to happen. I needed someone. I was someone. You were gone, Dan. Always working. Always exhausted. I needed to feel wanted again. I needed to feel like me. I stood up so fast the chair scraped the floor. And what about Lily? Does she get a say in this? Do you think she won't notice that her mother is a liar? She flinched at that. Don't bring her into this. She's already in it. I barked. You paraded another man in front of her, another house, another child, and she doesn't even know what's going on. I never brought her to Jake's house. You didn't need to. You were slipping away from us every day. She feels it. I feel it. The silence that followed was thick. Tense. Like standing in the aftermath of an explosion, watching the dust settle. What now? She finally asked, barely above a whisper. I talked to a lawyer. That did it. Her breath hitched. You're leaving. I'm not the one who left, I said. You did. Every time you chose him. She was crying now. Silent, heavy tears. I didn't want to lose you. You already did. I walked out of the kitchen and into the hallway, past the photos of us on the beach, of Lily in her Halloween costume, of a life that, on the surface, looked like love. I stopped at Lily's door. She was asleep, her little arms tucked under her head, her breathing steady. I kissed her forehead, and in that moment, I made myself a promise. She would never feel the weight of this betrayal. I would carry it for her. Alone. The days that followed were numb echoes. Emily moved like a shadow in our home, quiet, withdrawn, avoiding eye contact. I didn't press her. I didn't yell anymore. I just started the slow process of unbinding myself from everything we had built. The first thing I did was take down the pictures. All of them. The wedding photo in the hallway, where we smiled under a floral arch. The candid shot of us on the Ferris wheel at the county fair. The framed print from Lily's 3rd birthday, with icing on our noses and matching party hats. I took each one off the wall and placed them in a box marked past. Emily didn't stop me. I moved into the guest room. That night, Lily asked why I wasn't sleeping with Mommy. I swallowed the lump in my throat and told her Daddy was working late and needed to be close to his laptop. She nodded sleepily, trusting me. That trust nearly broke me. At work, I threw myself into the grind harder than ever, because the silence there felt cleaner than the tension at home. No lies in the sound of machines. No betrayal in the buzz of a forklift backing up. One evening, I came home to find Emily sitting on the porch steps. It was raining, soft and cold. She didn't even flinch. I told him it's over, she said without turning around. I stood in the driveway, soaked to the bone, but couldn't bring myself to move closer. Why now? Because you were right, she whispered. I didn't lose you when I cheated. I lost you the moment I chose not to come home. Silence hung between us like wet laundry, heavy, damp, and still clinging. I loved him, she admitted. But it wasn't real. It was escape. With you, I had roots. With him, it was just wind. I walked past her, into the house. Her voice followed me, softer now. I don't expect forgiveness. I just hope someday Lily understands I stayed for her. That I'm not the villain she'll see in your silence. That night, I sat with the divorce papers. They were ready, my attorney had drawn up the final draft. I only needed to sign. But I didn't. Not yet. Because part of me was still unraveling the knots she'd left behind. Because love, even betrayed, doesn't die like a switch flipped. It dies in layers. In memories. In toothbrushes left in pairs, in coffee mugs that say his and hers, in routines that outlast the reasons. I stood in the kitchen and stared at our fridge. Lily's drawing was still pinned there, a scribbled picture of all 3 of us holding hands under a sun with a smiley face. I felt something twist inside. She would lose something too. A version of family she didn't know was false. I couldn't protect her from that. But I could protect her from what came next. The morning I signed the papers, the sun was rising just as Lily woke up. She shuffled into the kitchen in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes and asking for pancakes. I flipped them in silence while the manila envelope sat unopened on the counter. I wanted that moment with her to be untouched by anything bitter. After breakfast, I walked into the garage and sat in my truck for a long time. I stared at my reflection in the rearview mirror, eyes bloodshot, jaw tight, shoulders carrying months of betrayal. And then, I opened the envelope and signed my name where it mattered. It didn't feel like winning. It didn't feel like losing either. It felt like ending something that had already ended long ago. That afternoon, I told Emily it was done. She didn't cry. She just nodded, eyes glassy, holding the edge of the countertop like it was the only thing keeping her upright. I'll move out by the end of the week, she said. I shook my head. No. Lily stays here. This is her home. We'll work out custody, but this house, this space, it belongs to her stability. Emily swallowed, her voice cracking. She loves you more than anything, you know. She deserves the truth, I said, but not all at once. She nodded again. That weekend, we sat Lily down together. We didn't use words like divorce or custody. We told her that Mommy and Daddy were going to live in different places for a while. That we still loved her very much. That none of this was her fault. She cried. Of course she did. Children feel the fracture even if they don't understand the blueprint. When Emily left, she hugged Lily for a long time. Then she turned to me. I know I don't deserve it, she whispered, but thank you for not turning her against me. I'm not doing it for you. That was the last time we spoke face to face. In the months that followed, I rebuilt. Not quickly. Not heroically. Just, quietly. One piece at a time. I got a better shift. Picked Lily up from school more often. Started journaling, reading, trying to find who I was without the identity of her husband. One evening, Lily drew another picture. This time it was just her and me. We were holding hands, standing next to our dog in a garden. There was a house in the background. Smaller. Simpler. But ours. She looked up at me and smiled. This one's just us for now. Is that okay? I nodded, my throat tight. That's more than okay. The weight hadn't vanished. Betrayal doesn't leave you clean. But it does leave you clear. Clear enough to see who you are. Clear enough to choose how to carry what's left. And I choose her. I choose healing. Life didn't magically improve after the divorce, but slowly, it settled. I moved into a small house with big windows, where silence felt peaceful instead of empty. Lily and I built new routines, pancake Sundays, movie nights in pajamas, walks to the park just to count stars. She asked questions, of course. I answered with honesty that fit her age, always ending with, but I will always love you. That never changes. She started saying it back. I took care of myself too, started running again, picked up my guitar, laughed more. One Saturday at the library, we met Olga, a gentle soul who treated Lily like a person, not a child. Their bond grew naturally, and so did ours. We never rushed it. 2 years later, our house was full of drawings and music. Lily painted her room purple with glitter. She smiled more. I did too. When she asked me one night, "Dad, are you happy?" I didn't hesitate. I am. Because you're here. We still see Emily at school events. We nod, polite. Civil, our past is part of us, but no longer defines us. Lily is 13 now. Brilliant. Kind. She dreams of becoming an artist and tells stories through colors. One drawing she gave me showed our little home under a golden sun. This is where I became me, she said. She's right. We found peace, not perfect, but real. And that's enough.